Hello, and welcome to the Book by Book, a podcast about the odd book or two we've read. I'm your host, Scott, and I'm not alone. Tobie's here with me. This episode, we're going to be talking about Martin Millars' Supercute Futures. Something that's key, which I kind of forget to define, is kawaii. Kawaii is lovely, lovable, cute, or adorable. It is the culture of cuteness in Japan. The cuteness culture, or kawaii aesthetic, has become a prominent aspect of Japanese popular culture, entertainment, clothing, food, toys, personal appearance, and mannerisms. This is actually going to be a pretty spoiler-light episode, so continue on, and I'll see you on the other side. Oh, okay, nice. You have to find your local village fete and
Yeah, that's it. Sell my marrows. How are you?
Yeah, pretty good, thank you. What do you remember about Martin Millar? I know some way back.
Yes, Martin Millar. I think you introduced me to Martin Millar, didn't you? With was it Lonely Werewolf Girl?
Some long years ago, we both picked up a fair amount of his work, and you seem to like one half more than the other, and I seem to like the other half more.
What was it? Fairies of New York or something?
Fairies of New York, I think, was one of his biggest selling ones.
Mm-hmm.
I remember you being super hyped, like when that came out, you were telling me about it for a lot before I read it.
Yeah, I really enjoyed the Fairies of New York. It was a cracking book. I'd forgotten I'd read that actually. Brilliant. And then the Lonely Werewolf Girl I read as well, which was actually really good.
Yeah, I think you lent that one to me and I read, and it's pretty long. It was sort of longer than I wanted it to be, but I actually nonetheless did really enjoy it.
Yeah, it kept you engaged, but it did drag a bit at times.
Yeah, and not to do it, I don't know, this depends on how you feel about one compare it to as a disservice, but like, it kind of reminded me of Buffy, like a...
Okay, yeah.
Buffy. I mean, for obvious reasons, it's about like a
teenage
teen in the werewolf world filled with sort of demons and vampires and all that stuff. So in 2018, he had a new book out, which was Supercute Futures.
Oh, okay. Supercute. Cute. Okay.
Yeah, Supercute Futures by Martin Millar.
I've not heard of that.
No. So I'm going to keep this spoiler free, I think, because it's a fairly recent book. So it's about Mox and Mitsu.
Okay. They're not part of any of the other books?
No. This is a whole new venture.
Didn't he do a cartoon that we read as well?
He did a graphic novel of Lux and Albie.
Lux and Albie, yes.
And so that was like Lux from the Lux novel, I forget what it's called, and Albie from a different novel. He just took two of his lead characters and stuck them in a graphic novel together. And I guess they're in the same world. They're both sort of centered around like the grunge and punk scene in Brixton. That's quite his MO, I think.
That's where I thought Moxie came from, but no, yeah, carry on, sorry.
Right, so yeah, we have Mox and Mitsu. They are, I'm not sure where to start with this one. So it's set in the future. I'm going to start with the timing. Post-nuclear war, post-famine disease, but the world has come out the other side of it. So that's sort of not a distant memory, but a memory. And I guess a lot of the first world countries are sort of bouncing back. There's about 19 conglomerates that kind of run the earth.
Okay.
And Supercute Futures is one of them. Supercute Futures started with these two girls, their iPhone, and they had a channel, and I'm not quite sure what it is. It's called like Kawaii, which is a love of all things Japanese. And they would just sort of get imports and do their hair and makeup and just YouTube channel it. And it just grew to like Simpsons size fame. It just grew and grew. And so this is actually a cyberpunk novel.
Right, okay, cool.
But it's sort of like unassuming. Like it's about the tech, which we'll talk about in a bit. But I guess I haven't actually read that much cyberpunk. So I was beyond halfway when I sort of realized a third of this is set in cyberspace.
Right.
There are body modifications, there are drones. So not unassuming, I guess, but I guess it's it's a strange one because sometimes it feels like it's played for laughs, but then they sort of dry up quite quickly.
Mm-hmm.
So we're in the future, and I don't think we know how old they are. They've had so many body modifications. They still have their very young teen look, and they still carry that same channel, but it's like a huge Saturday night stadium sort of thing. They sort of go on and just chat show host and sell it. But they run this multi-billion corporation.
Okay.
It's not lawless, but for example, their building, they own the whole block. And they have their own army. It's a sort of no police zone. And the other sort of big companies have a similar thing. So they're in therapy, but that's sort of just a way of getting out information to us because it doesn't really go anywhere and they don't take it seriously.
Okay.
Like, how do we get some of their backstory out? And so they have like an AI manager.
Yeah.
And so one of the opposing conglomerates, I'll see if I can remember their name.
You say the central characters are likable though, because at Lux and Albie they were very sort of dysfunctional and not
that was certainly going to be my point. Is none of the characters are that likable in this.
Okay.
So it's quite hard to root for them. It's like rooting for the lesser of two evils.
Okay.
They can be quite cold. Mm-hmm. And I'm not sure if it's a sort of statement on capitalism.
Yeah.
Or because we've read his other books, he just does characters that can be quite cold. So anyway, there's like a bit of a hacking, and basically there's a hostile takeover, and they lose the controlling percentage of their stocks. And that guy basically, like, as soon as he has the stock, he then has legal entry into the building, and he just sends in the drones. He's like, just kill him. That's what I mean. It's kind of lawless. You own your own army and policing. So they go on the run and they have to find some ex-employees that they fired to create a plan to bring it back. There's like the AI, there's robots. The evil guy we don't know anything about him and we don't really get to know. He's just evil corporate guy who sort of owns a big corporation, but just, corporation's got to cooperate. These two employees that were left, with more on their side, they're the most likable characters.
Okay.
We do get some inkling towards Mox and Mitzi, but overall, doesn't really feel like they changed throughout this.
Right.
Yeah, so like it's got that Martin Miller cyberpunk traits, and I guess he upgraded it for like a modern times. The amount of times they're sort of at something and then they take off a VR set and they're in their office.
Okay. If you've read Ready Player One?
I have, yeah. I have mixed feelings. Like, I really enjoy it, but it's painstaking how good bad it is, or can be at times.
Do you think, are there similarities between these two?
I mean, sort of superficially. Like the feel is very different, and the use is very, very different.
Okay. Yeah.
Stakes here are a lot more life and death.
Yeah.
Within the game, within the Ready Player One, I guess it kind of represents the underclass a bit.
Yeah.
And there's some, like rich poor divide.
Yeah.
It's just like rich people trying to keep their money. They sometimes talk about the good they've done with their power and money, but it's quite often undercut with like a joke or something that went disastrously wrong, or like a country of people that died by mistake.
Yeah.
So every time they kind of start getting you on their side, they just sort of go cold again. I kind of enjoyed it. If it was longer, I don't think I would have. It's not long at all, to be fair. It's 230 pages.
Oh, okay, yeah, it's nothing.
By halfway, I think it literally takes the first 100 for the action to kick off.
Okay.
So once the hostile takeovers happen, they have 48 hours to sort of solve it or fix it, as it were.
Oh, okay. Ooh.
And there is some fun to be had, and there is a few surprises. There's like a nice setup. Here's how it's going to be. Here's A and B, and we're going forwards. And then there's like a sort of nice switch. That thing where like they knew the plan, but we didn't.
Cool. That's
Oh,
all right.
okay, that's they kept their cards close, and I guess that's the climax for a nice reveal.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I've given you enough to really ask any questions.
Do you think is it? Yeah. Okay. Right.
I bought this off the back of liking Martin Miller.
Yeah.
I was mildly intrigued, but I don't think I would have gone through it if it hadn't been for liking his stuff in the past. Martin Miller probably won't continue if there's follow-ons with this one.
Does it leave itself open for sequels?
Yeah, I it's kind of a spoiler, but I don't think it's too surprising with this type of book. Like they kind of make it, they kind of come out the other side. I think a problem with the whole kawaii thing is that it doesn't feel like Martin Miller himself is into it. Like he's created something for his characters to be super into and to make about their world, but the love of it never really comes through.
Yeah.
Like some of the interesting stuff, I don't know if it's purposeful and I'm really into it, or like it's very the point is because they're very body upgraded. This isn't quite right, but like 8% left of their original body, including brain or something.
Wow. How is that? Is that integrated well then?
Yeah, I think so. Like I think you come to figure it out at the right time. I don't think it explicitly tells you some things. It's dropping these hints that are sort of 1-on-1 plus question mark. Now that they've said this 2 pages later, I understand what X means.
But does it open with like an exposition, as it were, like the world is you do body?
It does with the kind of characters. It starts off with them in therapy. I don't know if you saw the recent Disney movie of Artemis Fowl.
Oh yes.
So there's been quite a few slatings about how bad they get that information out. And one of the examples was, hey, here's a child psychiatrist. He's in it for one scene, and he's going to talk about like, your missing father issues, to go away and never come back. He was there to, expose this information, as ugly as it is. The book doesn't actually take that much time, like the time span, maybe probably less than a week, maybe even like 3 or 4 days. I'm pretty sure it's 48 hours from the midpoint. And
completion,
and it's only like maybe a day or 2 before. It's strange. Like I guess I thought it would be more fun, and I don't know if it's because the characters were so cold that it kind of wasn't really. I don't know if that's just the title and the cover just sort of misled me. Like I haven't read it, but I do have.
I've read many Martin Miller books that have had fun, uplifting characters in it.
That's true. I guess it's sort of down to his supporting cast, I suppose.
Quite low in the rankings of Martin Miller books you've read then.
So it gets blurry, and I can't remember the names of which ones I've read because we're talking probably over 10 years now.
Yeah, easy.
Because the comic book, Lux and Albie Sign On to Save the Universe, I think I bought that when I was like 14. It was like one of my first independent comic buys.
Yeah.
And I just sort of found it on the shelves and discovered it. So I've got like a huge love for that, partly nostalgia, partly, I think I heard of him before Neil Gaiman, and I know Neil Gaiman champions him. I kind of see why. In that one particularly, it has these sort of strands, these sort of psychedelic, otherworldly strands. It's like God's trapped on Earth. I think an excommunicated God is living underneath our 2 characters in Brixton. He's trying to find his way into heaven. Lux is trying to find, can he become the best kisser in the world?
That's
and all
right,
these many things. There's even like a depressed plant. All these things kind of tie together. I probably will read more of Martin Millar's. I'd like to hear someone who likes it review to see if I just wasn't in a humorous mood and actually it was funny, or it was dark humor and maybe I'm just sort of not in that phase right now, or black comedy. I'd definitely say check out Martin Miller.
I would lower. What I've read of Martin Miller, I've enjoyed. I wouldn't say that he's the best I've ever read of that kind, but he certainly has carved a niche that's distinctly Martin Miller, I would say.
Yeah, I do like how he writes what he knows in that I'm going to say Brixton again. I don't think all his novels are just set in Brixton, but he writes the down and out in specifically London.
Yeah.
Even in Good Phrase of New York, if memory serves, it was sort of alleyways and bars and like
Exactly
sort of,
that. Yeah.
you know.
And the flats were unkept, glossy, and what? Here's a question. A slightly off-topic question. Well, not off-topic, but what would you say is the funniest book you've ever read?
That's a good one. I know the funniest moment I've had in a book. Jonathan Safran Foer's Extremely Loud and Very, Very Close.
Okay, I've not heard of that at all. Great title, though.
I might have to Google it. I'm not sure if that's the right one. That might be the follow-up. What's the one I'm thinking of? The one where Granddad's passed
Right,
as a Jew during the Holocaust. The whole book can flitter in between like pretty sad tragedy and comedy. Mm-hmm. And there's just a funny bit with a misunderstanding because he's vegetarian, and like the ticket guard was 2 people away from me, and I read this bit, and I just sort of cracked up, and I couldn't stop laughing, and all I was thinking of was how weird it must look to the ticket guard. I kept chuckling like I was on crack or something, and then the more I tried not to laugh, when you get the giggles, and I basically just chuckled all the way home because of like this one half a page. I'm gonna have to quickly Google because it's gonna bug me if I don't know what that's called. It was pretty famous. I think it won some awards. Jonathan Safran Foer. Everything is Illuminated.
Oh, yes.
Superficially, the book starts off as kind of a wacky comedy, fish out of water, a lot of translation jokes from his guide, who's like a sort of teen himself. And then the book just shifts slowly to like lost and loneliness, his family's history. There's this incredibly sweet part of, I don't know if it was his uncle, but someone, I might be getting my books mixed up with 100 Years of Solitude. So there's just these really nice, sweet parts and pretty sad parts, obviously. Like there's a man who goes to see the village he grew up in, and there's literally nothing there. Not like the remains of buildings. It's like a plain field with not even like the base structures, So it seems odd. I don't think I'm saying that the funniest book I've ever read, but there are moments in there.
There's always, in black comedy, there's always comedy found in the darkest moments, and that's sometimes the best form of comedy.
Yeah, that's true. How about you? Do you have a funniest book?
Yeah, for me, there's 2 that stand out. One of them is Hokkaido Highway Blues.
Say that again?
Hokkaido Highway Blues.
Who is that by and what is that? I've never heard of that.
Hang on, let me just double check that. But I'm pretty sure it is. Yeah. Hokkaido Highway Blues by Will Ferguson. So he basically writes. It's a travel book, I guess. About this English person who's out in Japan teaching English, and then takes a break for 2 weeks and travels from the south of Japan to the top, which is where Hokkaido or Hokkaido is, and he chases the sakura tree blossom as it sweeps across Japan and follows it.
Oh, okay.
And it's just about his experiences on that journey, the people he met.
So it's a non-fiction book. It's a.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, I thought you meant like it's in the guise of a travel book.
No, it's a representation of this guy's travels basically across Japan, like a diary almost. But that was really, really funny. I remember crying with laughter a lot in that book. It's just like the way that the Japanese people would get like extremely excited at the idea that their town or village or something was going to be in the next Godzilla film, and that Godzilla was going to be destroying it, and that sort of thing. Just the level of excitement that they showed for that type of thing. And the other book would be Tractors in Ukraine.
Oh, a history of...
Yes, A History of Tractors in Ukraine, that's it.
I haven't read and I don't know much about it, but I think you and a mutual friend had both read it and were suggesting it to me, but I never got around to it.
Yeah, that was really funny.
That's
unlike anything I'd ever read before. Basically, about two sisters and their hatred for each other, but the hatred for the stepmother was even more and outweighed the hatred for each other. So through the hatred for the stepmother, they ended up forming a bond.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so it's about the history of them, why they fell apart, why they fell out after growing up together, their father and his pursuit of this book about tractors in Ukraine, and then the stepmother, who's just this young, big-bosomed, blonde Polish woman who they think is just a gold digger and moved in to their father. She's like mid-30s and he's like late 80s, late 70s or something like that. Very old and frail, and she's just this big bosom blonde woman who they see as milking her, so they join to try and get rid of her. And it's just really, really funny. It's very depressing and sad at the same time, but hilarious.
That's like the writer is from there, or you're not sure?
I think so. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
She did the man who stepped out a window in something else.
Oh, is that the man who runs away from the 100-year man who stepped out a window and disappeared?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I have seen her work then.
Yeah, she did that.
Again, I'm not familiar with. I haven't read any of it.
And then I read just one other book that I read that was quite amusing, and I can't remember what it was called, which is annoying. But it's basically about a guy who sets off who's in a relationship with his wife, and the relationship is very sort of stilted. There's nothing in it at all. They're just existing through life together, and he's become very bored. And he's had this old flame that he used to work with, and he felt that there was, if he pursued her and left his wife and started off this relationship with her that was never ever anything other than there could be something, an unsaid thing. He always reminisced about it, and then he decides to write her a letter and goes to the post office to post it, tells his wife he's going to go and post this letter. And then he gets to the post office and he decides that he'll walk to the next post box to deliver it. And then decides that he'll hand deliver it to her. And he ends up walking from John O'Groats to Land's End, basically.
Oh, okay.
with this envelope. And it's about the people he meets on the way. It gets into the newspapers that this is what he's doing. And then people start to join him and walk with him, and everything that he was doing has been taken out of context. He was just going to deliver this letter because the lady who he wants to send a letter to is dying of cancer in a hospital, and he just wants to say his thoughts before she goes, and then he wants to make sure the letter gets there, and all that sort of thing. So. But people in the newspaper get wind of it, the public get wind of it, then they start following him, then they start holding banners up in the road as he's shuffling up the road in his vastly deteriorating shoes and that sort of thing. Really good. Okay. Yeah, I thoroughly enjoyed that one.
Do you remember the called? Sorry, what was it called, that one?
I really couldn't tell you, I can't remember.
Okay, well, we'll try and give that a Google and get it to you next time. Hey, we're going to wrap it up around here. Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed. Join us again next episode, and until then, support your local bookstores and have a great day.